MMA guy too, Geoff?
No, I used to,
Okay.
I used to follow it a lot, but it got to the point where they too many other sports, and then, I love it though, man. One day I'll get back in.
I know. Maybe we'll get an NHA MMA slate up here at some point. We have the NFL to look at, though, first and foremost. That's Geoff. I'm Eytan. Tyler's producing. Appreciate you rolling with the three of us. Just curious because, I know Geoff is a man of multi-tasks and trades here. So from golf to NBA to NHL to, in this case, the NFL. I didn't know. Maybe I could pick your brain on an MMA, like a Bellator slate. That's why I was asking. But that's fine. We got plenty of football.
Like 4 years ago, probably. Yeah, absolutely. You could have. Right. But I just can't fit it in.
No worries, brother. You have a lot going on, right? Like kids and life and work. So it's understandable. We appreciate you hanging with us out there on the No House Advantage show. We'll get you ready for the weekend, a busy one. You can hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, notification bell, hang with all of our channels. Tolan in the house, come for the good times. Well, hopefully you've arrived at the right spot here and you didn't just stumble on here by any means. And also a reminder, we have free projections for you. Now we have the NHA projections and the optimal. If you truly just want to go plug and play, we have that there for you as well. All right, my friend. So what are you thinking of just overall about week 3? We talked ahead of time about the brutal beat that was last night. So I'm fine with putting that in the rear view by all means.
Yeah. It was, just looking back to what we had projected and stuff like that. I mean, it was a weird game from like a prop standpoint too. I mean, like we had Njoku breaking out for becoming Rob Gronkowski for a night. Both quarterbacks were pretty good in just terms of like their production for the passing yard. Trubisky obviously sucks. I mean, but then, there were still some good calls, like the unders on like Freiermuth and stuff hit. But yeah, there was definitely like a little bit more wide open than I think we thought it would be. And then obviously, I mean, we're not even going to talk about the betting implications for that last play, but it was interesting. I think overall, again, like the projections kind of proved, outside of like a couple outlier performances, like they're pretty much spot on again. So.
No, I definitely think that once you start to apply this here, if it's building your own lineups, if it's even taking projections and trying to get ahead on the versus the house, there's going to be a nice opportunity, a sharp opportunity for applying it by all means. And there are a couple, like you said, in Njoku, there are a couple of guys even on our projections that we have for this weekend that may be in some sort of jump out scenario here, especially for somebody who may not be thinking of more of an obvious like Jonathan Taylor or, a bigger name in their respective spots. So just looking at where we are, it does look like here that we have a bunch of projections. And just to make sure, right, everything is updated, right? Everything is to the date, to the T. Okay, making sure. But Joe Flacco keeping his picks under 1.5 seems like a pretty good place to start from at least the Stokastic projections for NHA, which are free. But that, Geoff, is 88.8%. Pretty much hitting on that simulation win on the under.
Yeah. I mean, let's start at the top. Joey Flax, he's got a 1.5 line there. It's obviously
hold on, team. I totally lied to y'all just now. And Joe Flacco is actually at half an interception for Mr. Flacco.
Okay. So the line, when did that change? Okay.
All right. Well, I mean, whatever. That's fine. I mean, that one, it's just one prop. I mean, we don't need to talk. We didn't want to talk about Joey Flacco anyways. Nope. Why don't we stick on quarterbacks though? Because there are I think one thing that is sticking out like at the top of the projections too. And this is actually a play I like just in general for props. Matt Ryan's under. It's 264 on No House, which is bigger than the books already. And he's projected for like 223.4. On Stokastic. I love this. Look, if the Colts are scoring points here, like it's Jonathan Taylor. They're going to give Jonathan Taylor 1 million carries after they gave him 9 carries. You look at Jonathan Taylor's usage after he's had like low carry games just in a short career, always bumps up after a week, a week where they don't give him much. So I think Ryan here under, I know the game's got a big point total, but I don't necessarily think that means the Colts are just chucking it around the yard. The Chiefs pass defense still, I think, pretty solid. So I like that one. And that's one of our top projection plays, like just in terms of, any props. So.
Okay. By the way, it does look like upon further review, the Flacco prop is accurate. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Yeah, we'll come back to that in a second, though. But the thing on Ryan, look, I love, right? 264.5 passing yards is what NHA has. Going under that. I also think that even if you like the Colts, especially if you like the Colts in this game, it's because of defensive measures, right? It's because the Colts are keeping the ball on the ground with their best player, Jonathan Taylor, and it's not Matt Ryan single-handedly out-dueling Patrick Mahomes. So the reason why I bring that up, and it's probably two that you like lesser, right, since you talked about the passing yards first, but under 1.5 passing touchdowns, I think becomes appealing here. And then also, going over the half intercept, you probably don't need to do that, but maybe going under 1.5 passing touchdowns. I'll stay away from the interceptions just because I don't think we need to, but at least the touchdowns I thought was interesting because of the game flow that also factors in how you looked at the passing yards.
Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, the only reason we wouldn't go over interceptions on Ryan in this game is if we're playing for a low passing total.
Right.
And I kind of like the Colts to cover here. So I like this play a lot, but I like the under passing touchdowns. That's a great call to pair it with. The interception, it could get there. And I think there is I still think the Colts will probably have to be putting together some kind of late drive where Ryan's uncorking it and probably uncorks an interception. But at the same time, of those three plays we're mentioning for Matt Ryan, yards, interceptions, passing touchdowns, interceptions, easily my least favorite. The 1.5 passing touchdowns under that, we'll take it. It's just, it's actually, it's a pretty solid under for us. And then the yards, obviously I really like. So
anything that, all right, so let's go back to the Joe Flacco play here, because this one is 1.5. He's projected to be 0.6. And when we look at everything that goes through the simulation to get to Alex's number and then projection on Stokastic, Flacco is by head and shoulders above everybody else. So as you mentioned, Jay Flack in the house, Joey Flacco, right? It does sound like somebody at the end of like a terror squad, Fat Joe or something, like one of his six. He's no longer Fat Joe, right? But he's just
Proposition Joe. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly right. But it's it's Joey Crack, but like Joey Flack, right? One of his 6 different aliases. I don't know. It does roll off the tongue. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, he's like that. He's like he feels like he should be in that Goodfellas scene where he's introducing all the wise guys, Tommy 2 times and whatever,
Yeah.
Joey No Talk.
This is Joey Flacco, right? He just zips up a little bit. I love it. Oh my goodness, man. All right. So what do you think though? I mean, this is a game here. It's moved to 6 already. I don't know if you don't think that Joe Flacco is going to throw a ton or if it's just, you're not concerned about the Bengals defense.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Bengals are going to come out and thump the Jets. I think that Joe Burrow deletes his social media. I think this could just be 28-3 or something, or 28-10 but part of me says that. And also part of me wonders if the Bengals defense is good enough, but I think they are. I think the Bengals just have had a tough time just getting going, just getting everything together. I think the talent is still there for Cincinnati. Look, we lean pretty hard under on all these Flacco props, except for passing touchdowns, which is actually with passing touchdowns. I was going to say, what am I saying? We lean heavy under on all these. And I kind of like it. I don't really mind taking Flacco unders across the board. I think that, he's definitely hit the runner the first couple of weeks with all these passing yards. I mean, I don't know. It's Joe Flacco. I don't think we should be afraid to fade this spot. So I think the Bengals will come out, put an end to this and probably, grab their first win quite easily. And we just see Flacco with a pretty mediocre day, and maybe even like a Ryan Tannehill with Titans situation where it just gets kind of ugly at the end. I could see that happening.
49.5 rushing yards for Michael Carter. So I'm sure there's a correlation here to how you see this game play out that you can take advantage. I imagine it's the only prop we have for Carter, but I imagine that's going to be a pretty hard under for you there if that's the case.
Yeah, and look, like Breece Hall's still involved. I mean, I like targeting unders on the timeshare running backs, and I know it's actually been Michael Carter's kind of backfield. I definitely understand that, but yeah, I like this one. It's what you call just a solid under for us. I mean, we're talking like, a 4-yard split, but it's a low rushing total, right? So 4 yards is a lot on a 49.5. And I think with the way this game is set to go, I mean, maybe Carter gets there on the receiving yards or something, but I mean, obviously we don't have a receiving prop to go off of, but talking pure rushing. Yeah, I like it. Who knows? I mean, this could be the week where the Jets are like, hey, Breece Hall, like, let's see if we can get him a little bit more work. And then Carter just ends up taking like 8 carries. So that could happen as well. I think that's a pretty big total for Michael Carter. Actually, I'm almost surprised it's that big.
Yeah. I think it's just a little bit higher. Usually there is a decent gap, if there is one, between NHA and the books in your favor, of course, here on No House Advantage. I just want to go back to Cincinnati because you have them winning emphatically right in this game. So is there anything, is it Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you think, as a secondary option, maybe with Burrow? And, it's 282.5 for Burrow, 2.5 passing touchdowns. Even Joe Mixon, who is only stuck at 81.5 rushing yards. Unfortunately, we can't play anything there in that element. But who benefits, do you think, the most from your game script?
Yeah, I mean, I like the receivers here. I kind of like looking at Higgins a little bit in this game, to be honest. I mean, you look at what Higgins and Jamar Chase have done, like just when they've been on the field at the same time, it's quite similar. Obviously, Jamar Chase has better spike weeks and stuff like that. But like T. Higgins in a game where, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what the Jets' plan is. If they're gonna, I know, like, Sauce Gardner, where he's going to end up or what, but I think that both these guys are capable of overcoming a bad matchup anyways. And I mean, look, like, I mean, he had a good week last week. Gardner did, shutting down the outside of, or at least shutting down like Donovan Peoples-Jones, but like, we're not talking about Donovan Peoples-Jones and Jacoby Brissett here. So I kind of like attacking Higgins a little bit. I know we don't have like Higgins projected as like a huge overplay at 69.5, but I think taking a line that one of these Bengals receivers, whether it's Chase or Higgins, like comes through with a big day is absolutely fine. I think Higgins is also the player. Like if you're looking at the props, Jamar Chase is, 87.5. That's big, even for Chase. And if Higgins and Chase are going to continue to just kind of like even out, like take the lower one and go over on Higgins and go under on Chase. I'd be fine with that. I think that's a decent play, especially we're talking No House Advantage. You can mix these props in, into your DFS lineups. The one thing we know about Jamar Chase, he tends to be very boom or bust. He's either going for like 150 or like, 40 yards or something. So again, like, don't be afraid to take an under on him, because if Higgins does, come up big and this game gets away early, like the targets just won't be there. So this isn't Cooper Kupp. Like Jamar Chase isn't taking like a 40% team target share when T. Higgins is on the field. So yeah, that's how I'm looking at the Bengals. I like the opportunity here for going over on Higgins.
All right. So I like this because we can identify the prop or two maybe from a game that correlates with our projections and see if you like that. And then it opens up, as we just did in that Jets Bengals game, a conversation about game flow, right? So we also have Jonathan Taylor, mentioned him, but he's in that game with Matt Ryan that we spoke about. Winston, who is clearly dealing with some sort of injury, right? Like multiple breaks in his back. Jameis comes in 267.5 is the passing yards, and the projection that we have on Stokastic, Geoff, is well below that. So that might open up how you feel on that prop specifically, and then also kind of how you see this game play out.
Yeah, and just quickly getting some updates here. Like Kamara, Winston, both practicing today. Looks like, I don't think we have the official injury report out yet, but and if Kamara's in there, I'm just
banged up.
What's that?
I apologize. Both, if they play, are going to be banged up.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think Kamara being in there like makes me like the over or under, even more, right?
Got it.
I think they'll be more prone to like, just going with a Kamara Ingram kind of duo on the ground and just trying to really beat him up. The other thing is, like, I mentioned this, and this was like a huge bust for me last week. I think it was last week. I can't remember what week we're in already, but it was the Baker Mayfield situation. And you know, like Carolina plays at a fast pace, but like, holy shit, like Baker is terrible. They're not going to move the ball. So I don't see this as being like a game where the Saints are going to have to do that much, you know, where if they get up a touchdown, they can just run it out because their defense is probably just going to shut down the Panthers. That's at least the way I think that the most likely scenario for this game is going to go. Obviously it's football. Who knows? We just had like a mini shootout between the Browns and Steelers. So I mean, the Winston total is monstrous this week in my eyes as well. Big under. Yeah.
I mean, and that point too, I don't know if you want to look at Kamara. I mean, 60.5 rushing, 24.5 receiving, 3.5 receptions.
Pretty big numbers for a guy who's limited. Kamara's a guy I'd probably just lay off, to be honest. It's funny, like we do have him projected for unders, but these aren't like we're not talking big gaps. Like it's almost you'd say a neutral lines here, especially in the receiving areas. So yeah, Kamara's probably I would just lay off him personally. Unless we get some big line on like, oh, he's good to go or he's going to be very limited, then he could take the unders. But until we learn a little bit more, you know, Kamara to me, not projecting is like someone you have to, again, we got like 12 games here. So You don't need to take these thin lines necessarily. But the Winston one, yeah, that sticks out for sure.
So I saw this stat. I mean, it's just freaking mind boggling. And I wonder if there's any way that we can apply this because of just this misuse. It's gross. It's almost malpractice, the misuse of Christian McCaffrey, right? Like McCaffrey probably has a lawsuit if he wanted to turn around and sue Carolina, and their owner has deep pockets, as we know, but I mean, he could sue right away. The Panthers have held the lead in 17 of their last 19. They've only covered 5, really 5 and 14 straight up against the spread. So you can count both in there. We know how much McCaffrey has been misused. 102 off 15, but half of that basically came off of that one run. So I don't want to touch his rushing yards here, because even at 71.5, like dude could get that on 2 carries with one being explosive. So I don't want to touch that. 38.5 receiving yards, 4.5 receptions. Any interest in that before we move to a different, just because, you know, looking at this game flow and how you see it with the Saints side, was curious if there's anything on the other side there with McCaffrey.
Yeah. I mean, it's like 5 targets per game. You know, nothing big in the receiving game yet. Just kind of that, you know, Baker using them, but not like abusing them, what you'd say. But at the same time, like we've had Carolina in a catch-up situation against Cleveland, or just in a back and forth situation against Cleveland. Nothing really transpired there in the passing game outside of 5 targets. Then we had, again, like last week, you know, late game situation, nothing really transpired there against the Giants. You did get going on the ground, like you said, but a lot of it's one big run. Yeah, like 4.5 receptions. I mean, we have those projected, the receiving totals as over. I guess I'd feel okay about that. I would probably rather fade him as a runner right now, especially against the Saints, who just traditionally very tough to run on. And I mean, that's just a rushing defense. I know McCaffrey's got the big play in him, and that does scare me, but I would feel pretty good about going under on the rushing. I think that this could be a breakout spot for McCaffrey as a receiver. I think just with the pressure the Saints bring, and just, you know, Baker obviously, you know, targeting 5 times a game, haven't really been too involved in like a crazy shootout. Like I said, that week 1 was interesting. This could be the spot where he pops as a receiver, but I don't really have a hard take on that. I think my favorite play would be to actually go under on the rushing yards and just trust the Saints defense here, because, you know, we're talking basically one play for McCaffrey. Like he was shut down week 1 against Cleveland. And the other thing is he's on the injury report this week. So it doesn't sound like a big deal. He certainly wasn't making a big deal about it, but it's notable, right? I mean, whenever you get an ankle, a foot, and anything, you know, lower body with a running back, it's just, you know, the chances go up. They're not playing the whole game. Something's happening. So yeah, I like the rushing under. I do. It's a strong projection for us. The receiving totals, you can take them if you want. I think those ones are a little bit dangerous on overs just because, you know, again, like this could be McCaffrey doesn't get going, maybe the ankle is an issue, and then he just isn't out there when it's time to grab those receptions. So a little bit worrisome on him. I would go under or nothing probably on him this week.
So that we have a couple, and again, you're hanging with us. We appreciate it. We see Lance in the chat there. Lance Simpson had a big one, did really good on No House last week. So we appreciate all of you hanging. If it's last week, if it's for the entire season, what have you. And I know it's a short season, so make sure that you stick around with us. Thumbs up, subscribe, take advantage of what we have above. We're going to match your first deposit. Just click on that link below, sign up, and we're going to match your first deposit up to $25 at No House Advantage. So, Geoff, we have a couple of running back props. They're all unders, and they're right below Winston, right? Harris, Singletary, Dobbins. I'll keep Edmonds off the list only because the three that I mentioned have a much wider gap from line to projection, if that makes sense. Like it's a little more, you only have 7 yards really to work with Edmonds. So that it's not fair to the other three where you have a wider gap. Of those three, which one do you like the best?
Yeah, so Singletary, Dobbins. Yeah.
By the way, I went under Singletary on the book, 42.5. I don't know if that's since moved, but that just could be another example of NHA extending that a little bit. So I went under 42.5, 46.5 seems like a pretty good gift. But again, you've got a pretty wide gap. Sorry, I just want to say I'm personally invested in Singletary.
The Damian Harris number is pretty big. At the same time, like I kind of like the Patriots in that game. And there's definitely scenarios where like that run game, which actually looked really good at the end of the Steelers game, gets going.
Yeah.
So that worries me. Dobbins is a guy I would just wait on and see what's going on with the injury stuff this week. If we get good news that like it's limited, but it does look like he could play. I'm with you. I think Singletary under is where I would hit. I just like it. I mean, there's just so many outs. James Cook comes in. We said this like 3 times. Like Zach Moss gets hot. They just can't run the ball early. Buffalo likes to throw anyways. So, on the road, like I don't know. I don't really think that the Miami rush defense is going to let Devin Singletary run all over the yard. I think at the very least they're going to force Josh Allen to go back there and do his Josh Allen stuff. So, yeah, let's just keep hitting it. I mean, it's a big number for Singletary. Harris's number is big. I will say that. Like, that is a big number. For a guy,
just because you like one doesn't mean you don't like the other two either. I was just saying.
Yeah, and I mean they're both up there. I mean we're talking like top 15 plays for us here. So they're both strong unders. I think Dobbins would I would probably just stay off. I think if he's healthy, like the Ravens are kind of in a spot here where they need a competent running back. So if he's out there, I think he actually is going to get work. That's probably one I would just stay off. I like the other two unders, and I would probably rank them slightly Singletary ahead of Harris. For the simple fact that I think there's there's just more outs for Harris to get there to the over than Singletary.
Is there anything, and I'll give you an example or two because I'm putting you on the spot here by all means, but is there anything in this top chunk that you see where you think, I get it. I understand the mentality. I understand how the projection can end up under because it's going to be under, I think, for the most part, but you like the opposite. And I mean, honestly, I'll give you two that jumped out right away that I was pretty surprised. And it's on the ground in the same game, Antonio Gibson and Miles Sanders, just because of how bad the two teams respectively defenses are stopping the run, right? You would think at the very least, one of those you would think would be an over, and both are under.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on Gibson. That's kind of what I'm thinking too with that game. I mean, I just can't see. I mean, Washington is beyond stupid if they're going to come out and attack the Eagles corners. I mean, they are like, especially with Carson Wentz. I mean, that's just the dumbest game plan on the face of the earth. They have to try and get Antonio Gibson going and force Carson Wentz to throw like 25 times in this game. That's pretty much their only path to victory. So I like Gibson's over. That's actually one that kind of jumped out to me too. Sanders, I'd be a little bit wary of because we got the not only Hurts, but like obviously Boston, they like to mix in the guys. I mean, they like to rotate.
Right, yeah.
So Sanders I think that's a pretty big total for Sanders, to be honest, but the Gibson one, I'm with you. Like that's not one I would bet under. Let's just put it that way. And potentially like you could play it again, if you're correlating a lineup, you could play it in Noah's event. Maybe go over Hurts passing props and go over Antonio Gibson rushing props or something like that, or go under Sanders and go over Gibson. because if Gibson is running, Sanders probably isn't on the field very much. So that's kind of the way I would be looking at those two props. Like you said, I think one of them goes over. I'm not sure if the game script goes where both of them goes over. It could, but it's kind of an interesting spot for both those guys. With Gibson, I just think Gibson's going to get more touches. So the other one that sticks out to me, and this one is, Jonathan Taylor, it's 97.5. I get it. Like, everyone's going to look at that prop after last week and go, there's no way I'm playing over on Jonathan Taylor. But like, Jonathan Taylor, I don't have his game logs right up in front of me. You know what? I'm going to get them up in front of me. It's going to take me 2 seconds here.
That's fine.
From last year. Let's find out how many times Jonathan Taylor went over 100 yards.
All right. So I'm going to guess 8 times.
You were low, my friend.
No, Tyler guessed 7. Oh, I thought Tyler had the number at 7. It's 13. How much? I'm just
It's 10.
Okay, 10. Okay.
10 times. He had 100 yards or more. So
pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And look, and three of the under games came in the first 3 weeks of last season. So when they weren't using them as much. I think Jonathan Taylor goes for over 100 yards this week. And it's not projecting as an over. It's just me thinking how this game is going to go. And I think that you play the bounce back with Jonathan Taylor. This is a perfect, what you call a GPP prop.
Yep.
You go against the wave. You're playing for a specific outcome. You pair it probably with some kind of receiving, like Juju Smith-Schuster over on the other side, because the Colts can't cover the slot. And you pair that with Taylor's over in a GPP lab. That's how I would play it if I was looking for a Taylor over in this spot. But, again, full disclosure, our projections do not like the over. It's just me liking the over. It's just how I think this game is going to go.
That's the thing, though, is that, you can find some value with that. If, maybe you have your own edge, your own angle that we're looking at, because there's everything. It comes out a different way. If it's simulation, if it's data, if it's projection, if it's feel, if it's gut, if it's just looking at trend, what have you, there are multiple ways to get to that end. And, just another pair of eyes looking at this is not a bad thing, even if it's a different way. So I love looking at it from as many ways as we can here with you, man.
Yeah. We like to analyze usage and stuff, and every little thing gets analyzed, but like, if you do look at long-term usage, it's so easy to overreact in a small game sample. I can't see Jonathan Taylor. We all liked him as the number 1 pick for a reason. Like, he's probably going to end up with 8 or 9 100-yard games this year. And he's already, so I don't know. It's a big number. You certainly, it's not like a must bet or anything. I have a feeling that he's going to go for 100 yards.
Awesome, brother. Anything you want to sneak in here on the way out?
Oh man, we're ending already.
I know. We probably had like 5 things written down that we didn't even get to.
On that note, like, I don't even know if these players are in the player pool now, because I didn't even get to check.
Early slate, right?
He's not. Early slate. Okay.
We need early slate action here.
Honestly, we kind of went over most of them. I think Derek Carr is in a nice bounce back spot. Let's end with Derek Carr.
Yeah.
The props are now depressed. He was way too high last week. He had like the highest passing prop on the slate. He's got the Tennessee secondary still sucks. So I like this as a bounce back spot. And then, Treylon Burks is another player. All the smart people have all the stats on him, the yards per target, whatever. I think that, looking to him for a potential overplay is still something you should be looking at too.
Awesome. At the Fantasy Grind on Twitter at Shander Show. Thanks to Ty for producing. Thanks to you. Thumbs up. You know the drill. Make sure you're subscribed here across the board to the Stokastic and all other channels that we have, and take advantage, man. This is out there for you. Yeah. The NHA promo is there for you. You deposit, we match your first deposit up to $25. Super simple. And you can go take on versus the house, win up to 20x a bet. It's all there for you. Our projections are free. The optimal lineups are there for you as well. All right, my friend, always a pleasure. We're back again next week. Do it all again, Good luck.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, good luck to everybody. And like you said, check it out, guys. Check out Noah's Advantage. Overlay the bonuses and all that stuff.
Yep, absolutely. Good point about that too with the overlay. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.